one thing I'm learning is that, we often think when we're going into a relationship and we're going into you think they're going to be your rock forever. It's like they're your rock now. They make you feel good now. And so you assume they're going to always make you feel that way. They're going to always be your rock. And so when suddenly the reality starts crumbling down in front of your face, that actually your partner is a human with flaws, and they've got their own unprocessed shit. And like you said, it feels almost easier to just be like, fuck it, I'm just going to go find another rock.
Right.
That feels
forget
easier.
all of this.
Fuck it, I don't want like a human, I want a rock.
Yeah.
So, right now, Preston can't be my rock either. And that's been super hard for me. And it's forcing me to confront, can I be my own rock? But I don't want to be my own rock. But can I be my own rock? But I don't want to be. And it's that battle between the inner masculine and the inner feminine big time. So what if you're someone who married or started being with a rock, and then suddenly they're not able to be that rock for you anymore, and now you're questioning who you are and what to do, what would you say is the first step towards finding some relief around this? If how are you supposed to create that sexual connection that you had in the beginning, or at least like some kind of playfulness and friendship? Because honestly, when it's hard, you don't even have a friendship at that point, because it's so, like you said, you're walking on eggshells.
There's a lot of contempt and just uncertainty.
Like, what's the first step towards at least getting connection again?
Okay, so this is where, I'm so excited to talk about this word. What a buzzword. Okay, acceptance. And
Fuck
listen,
that shit. Tell me more.
Here is what acceptance is not. Let's begin with that. Acceptance is not, I like this. I want this to remain being what it is. I don't have a vision for the future. This is all that there is or will ever be. That is not acceptance. Acceptance is a passive, it's not a passive, oh, well, fuck it. Like, just let him be what he is. And I'm not going to take any responsibility. I'm going to detach myself completely and just let him figure his shit out. And then I'll maybe, get involved again or get more, decide to be more of a part of this relationship. I did that. It does not fucking work.
No, I'm trying right now. I'm finding out it's not working either.
It doesn't work. Acceptance.
No, because you just get contempt. You get contempt.
Yes, you build more resentment. Exactly. Yeah. And now, see, the thing is that every relationship that has been together for any, longer length of time, you're past like the initial dating phase and honeymoon phase or whatever you want to call it. We build up these dynamics, right? We create these relationship dynamics. And especially at the beginning, unless you're like really self-aware and you've, worked on your traumas and healed your childhood wounds and integrated all these shadow aspects, most people don't do that when they first get into a relationship. So there are all of these little resentments that build up. And then over time that, I love Esther Perel, do you know her? Okay, yeah. She talks about how contempt is like the worst thing in a relationship. And it's that's detrimental. So one of the first things whenever you decide to make that shift is to first acknowledge within yourself that contempt is there, that resentment's there, the anger, the rage. Like with him, all of this anger about how things were, about how he was treated before. For me, in this scenario with my marriage, it was getting real with my rage and my grief, the grieving process of the old marriage that I thought we had, the things that I thought were true that were actually just fantasy that I was making up in my head, that, he was just pretending for my sake or vice versa. Like it's changing the narrative of the relationship. And that can really fuck you up. It is a mind fuck. And so the very first thing is getting your feelings, working through the feelings and all of that, and having a safe container for that rage is a whole other thing of its own that I'm not going to go like super deep into. I just wanted to kind of put that on the awareness here.
The rage
That's a really important part. It's
an
important part of the process. It is absolutely healthy. Rage is not bad. It's just that we usually only see it expressed in a harmful way. So our rage is powerful. Acceptance. Okay, so here's what acceptance is. It's literally just looking at, it's like, this is a hand. It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's
This
it.
is a hand.
That's it.
Yeah, this is what is.
Because as long as I'm telling myself this is a duck fin, I am in complete denial. I am in fantasy, right? Like, and I can't do anything with that because it's a duck fin, and I can't use a duck fin like I can use fingers. So, I mean, I'm just, making it silly, but like,
So glad you
this
used
is
that
this is
word.
what we do. We do all the time. It's just that's the first thing that came to mind for some reason, right? But as long as I resist that, and that's what happened with the eczema too. It's like I just it isn't, and then we are creating this barrier for ourselves from actually moving forward. It's kind of like when people who want to be high vibe all the time and are so worried about messing up their vibration are afraid of rage and anger and uncomfortable emotions, because they're like, oh, but then that means that I am doing something wrong, or I am flawed, or I'm not enlightened enough. No, you're human. And the only way the more that you suppress those emotions that you don't want to allow yourself to acknowledge and accept and move through, the more you're actually lowering your vibration long term.
Mm-hmm.
The more out of alignment you are.
And it sounds like what you're saying is not necessarily like if you've got contempt, if you've got rage, if you've got resentment, if you've got resistance, it's not necessarily to like dump that on your partner, but as long as you're able to acknowledge it with yourself, I think that's what I'm hearing you say. It's like,
that's
okay,
first.
I've acknowledged my rage. Now my partner has to deal with it. Rather, they don't need to necessarily know.
No, they don't always. Sometimes, this is what is absolutely necessary within the context of a relationship. When you're making your acknowledgments to yourself. Okay, so like, let me take a real example within our stuff. I can acknowledge to myself that I am resentful that he has put this pressure on me to step up and be the man of the family during those 2.5 years. And I can just get fucking angry about it. And I can do it in my closet. I can do it in my room. The way we did it initially for the first like year and a half, we didn't do it this way. We ended up pivoting and doing it this way after, but don't unleash your rage onto the other person. It is very counterproductive. But that's just what naturally happens when those are the patterns that you're used to and you're being reactive instead of responsive and responsible with your emotions. So now anytime that something comes up, what we know to do is to go handle it yourself. It's energy in your body. Emotions are energy in motion. So you literally you got to get it out of your body. And then you can think more clearly. You can actually show up with less judgment and more compassion. And that is like the whole foundation of doing shadow work. And then you can work towards a solution. And you can actually tell each other, you know what? I've legit conversation over here. This really happened. I have been so angry with you. I realized wow, fuck, I didn't even realize how much anger was in me about how you showed up. Like, I blame you for this and this and this and this.
Wow.
And say and here is the impact of that. Here is the impact of me having held this blame and resentment and rage towards you. It doesn't make me bad for having had those feelings. It's completely natural. We're both human here. But what that does is it helps him to feel more seen. Like, it gives me some insight, just a little bit even, into his pain of what it must be like for him to live with a woman who was, without even knowing it, blaming him for everything and showing up with that energy of blaming him for everything, because they can feel it. Even if nobody can quite put words to it, you can feel it.
They can totally feel it. And you see it in the way that your partner looks at you with fear. When you're, I noticed that like right now, I've noticed recently in moving to Colombia, I put way more pressure on him because the needs that got met in the States are not getting met here. So I'm like disproportionately putting a ton of needs on him. Plus he's figuring himself out. Plus he's lost. And I'm,
And it doesn't make you wrong for feeling that.
No. And I processed rage last night, actually.